Those boys. Hey, everybody. Thank you for sticking around, for joining us for this little reception to celebrate what God did with our team while we were in Honduras. And we are just so thankful that you are giving up a little bit of your afternoon to hear from us. I know our team is excited to share, maybe also a little nervous to share, but you got it. You're going to be great. We are first and foremost, thankful for all of the support that Grace Blue Ridge provided for us. So that's financial support, obviously, but also, most importantly, the prayer support and the encouragement. About half of our team were going for the very first time. Some of them were traveling out of the country for the first time, being on a plane for the first time. So that encouragement, that prayer support was more important than even the financial support, and we're so grateful for both. So thank you for that. We are going to show some photos and share some stories as we go through for about the next hour. If you need to leave, feel free to do so. We won't be offended or anything like that, but we are going to try to keep it close and tight in our timing. And then we are recording it as well so that some of our folks who wanted to be here but were out of town can join with us. So students, when you are sharing, make sure that you hold the microphone. I know it's scary, but hold the microphone up so that we can hear you. And then it's being videoed at that camera, right? Tech guys? Is it that camera? Dead center. Okay, so that's where they're filming us in case you need to know. So I wanted to just give a brief overview of why we work with HFOL and why we do this trip. So as I've been praying about this week and asking the Lord for what he wanted me to share, I kept getting this word, mutuality. And mutuality is a word that describes when two or more people have the same emotion or do the same thing for one another. So it's not just a give and a take. It's a give and a receive and a give back. And I think that is a good way to think about the way that these mission trips work, because what we don't want to do, and it's part of our policy here at Grace Blue Ridge with our global outreach team and with our leadership and our youth ministry and even our local outreach, is that we don't do swoop in, do our thing, swoop out, feel good about ourselves kind of work. There's enough of that out there, and we really don't believe that that is the most biblical way of providing care to our brothers, our sisters, and our neighbors. We believe in helping without hurting. And so doing ministry work in a way that protects and even builds more dignity into the people we are going to serve alongside and serve in tangible ways. And so HFOL is a fantastic ministry. It's Hondurans helping Hondurans. There's an American side of the ministry and a Honduran side of the ministry, and the Honduran side is in charge. So the American side really is just in charge of kind of fundraising, bringing some teams of Americans down, but all of that is done in submission to the leadership, the decision-making of the Hondurans on the board. And so that's a really key component, because there's a lot of aid organizations that go down, and we're talking about the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So there's a lot of groups that go down there, and a lot of them come in with our American ideas and our American customs and ways of doing things, and deciding that they should be more like us, or because we bring the money, we say we get to make these decisions. And HFOL purposefully turns that upside down. So there's plenty of stories over the more than 25 years that this ministry has been in existence where we've kind of overstepped and learned from those places. And so what we got to walk into was a place where there's a lot of trust between the folks that we're working with down there and the teams coming down. We got to walk into existing ministries and relationships and just be part of it. We didn't do anything in Honduras that Hondurans couldn't have really done for themselves, but they still loved us being there and coming alongside them in it. And so you're going to hear us talk about this more throughout this time, but our goals were simply to learn, to encourage, and to fellowship. So we did some things, and we're going to show you some pictures of some of the stuff we did, and they were great. We had a lot of fun. We also worked really hard. Some of those things were not easy. But ultimately, those were just secondary. The main reason that we raised all the money, we put in all the hours of volunteer work, most of our team did a lot of extra projects on the side to raise money for their trips. Lots of mulch, lots of mulch. Some babysitting, some other labor outside. So they did all of that so that they could go down to Honduras to learn, encourage, and fellowship. And that is what we did. So when I talk about mutuality, I just briefly want to mention a little bit about what that means for us. I made my notes. Let me go back to them here. Otherwise, I'll talk too long. So if the idea of mutuality is to give and to receive, then to give, we gave up a week of our time and all the days of prep leading to it. We gave up some of our stuff by bringing supplies and items that they don't have access to. We shared our skills by teaching them some new games and crafts, and even got to play with some of the students who were learning English and got to let them practice with us. We gave affection and love, and I would say most importantly, we gave up the comfort of being the pursued and instead became the pursuer. So it's real easy to sit back and wait for somebody to come talk to you. Or try to meet you on your terms. And our team did a fantastic job of actually putting themselves out there. They made the first move in a lot of situations that were uncomfortable. And so I think that was really important. But more importantly, we received back with abundance beyond what we gave. We received homemade meals made daily for us. We received comfortable and clean accommodations in the mission house. We received safe transportation, use of a vehicle, and abilities to see the beauty, the natural beauty and the cultural beauty of Honduras. We received communication help from our translators, but also from folks who were just around and jumped in to help us to navigate awkward situations of cultural difficulties and communication breakdowns. We received gifts of hospitality as these folks invited us to spend time with them, to eat their food, to sit in their living spaces, to laugh with them. But most importantly, we received the gift of relationship because they let us into their lives and agreed to build relationship with us, knowing that we were going to leave. It is very costly to them to open up their hearts to us. We came down and we did our thing, and we knew we were going to come home to air conditioning and comfortable beds and flushing toilets and warm showers. That's the reality all the time. And it would be really easy for them to be cynical or even just to be self-protecting, to be like, I'm not going to get too attached to this group because they're going to leave in 8 days' time. But they didn't. They opened up. They let us befriend them, and we don't take that lightly. So relationship is at the core of everything that we did and will continue to do with not just our youth trips, but our adult trips as well. And so as we share some of the stories and you see pictures, we want you to know that for every picture of something that we were doing, there was a lot of relationship building behind that, and that's our main goal. So that's my introduction. Jonathan, you want to just briefly talk about the training process and our fundraising?
Hey, everybody. This isn't working. No, it was when they brought it here. All right, if you're on the team, if you can go ahead and start making your way up here and just have a seat here to the left of me. So it did take a lot of work to do this trip right. What we consider doing it right means going down with the right mentality in our heads and in our hearts. And to do that, we use a wonderful resource. If you haven't ever come across it, I recommend it. It's called Helping Without Hurting. They have several different editions. This is the one for short-term mission trips. What's really tough is when you start to read this book, it starts to give you lots of reasons why you might not want to go on your short-term mission trip. And that's because short-term mission trips have been plagued with inconsistencies and incongruencies that equal not a very effective time either for the goer or the receiver of such missions. And we knew that coming in, and we wanted to do it right. That's why we found a mission that we can visit over and over again and build relationship with. And we also do the training ahead of time because there's a whole lot that goes on in the head and the heart while you're on this trip, and things that can make it successful or not successful. The first thing that I think is really important that we all learned is that there's a big difference between what we think of poverty and what God thinks of when he thinks of poverty. The first thing that goes to our head right away is material poverty. And living here in the West, even though many families do find things that they are struggling with, it's a different type of material poverty than you're going to see in Honduras. And so a lot of times that's the idea we have in our head of what we're looking at when we're looking at poverty. But what our study helps show us is that we all have poverty is broken relationships. It's broken relationships with either God, with ourselves, with our community, those that are around us, or with creation. So after we redefine what poverty is in our head, we can start to see that we're going down to serve broken people, but we too are also broken in different ways, but we all are in need of a Savior, and that helps level the playing field, helps gets our hearts and our minds ready to work with and serve in a helpful way the people of Honduras. And then we have to learn something very important. A lot of times mission trips have different focuses, and if you don't realize what type of focus you need for your trip, you may go and unintentionally try to help but do harm. A good example of that would be going to, let's say, a place who has just experienced not just experienced, 2 years previously experienced a earthquake, and you and your mission group show up with water to hand out to the workers who are trying to save people's lives. There's a disconnect there of 2 years. So one of the things that we realize is we have to recognize what part of the development process are these people that we're going to serve. In the case of Honduras, they're not in the relief. They didn't just have a crisis. They're not in the rehabilitation phase where we're trying to help them get back, like post-Helene, get back to where we were before. They're actually would be in the development category, which is empowering them to take what they have and go further. And so our job isn't to go down there and help them take care of their immediate material needs. It's not to go down there and help them build back to where they were. It's our job to help support them in Hondurans helping Hondurans. We help them do the mission that God has put forward in their lives, in their churches, in their hearts, and we go down there and we encourage, we learn from them in the process. It's much different than us going down there and serving the people of Honduras who need help, because we actually need as much help as they do. It's a head and heart shift. And I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying. We spend 5 weeks really working on this so that when we go down there, our heads and our hearts are aligned with what God's mission is, which is for us to go down there and to learn from what he's doing, to help out, to encourage them. And I think we did a great job of doing that. So we're going to go through each day in little chunks, and members of our team are going to share things that they learned, things that they noticed, and some of the fun things, some of the hard things. So are you guys ready for a little trip with us? All right, let's do it. Are we working?
Okay. So we mentioned that our 3 goals were to learn, encourage, and to fellowship. And so you'll see those themes come up over and over again in the photos. We've grouped them together in kind of 2-day time periods because ironically, that worked out really well with how we were kind of seeing our time there. So the first photos we're going to share here are from our travel there, which took 16 and a half hours door to door. It was a long day. And then we had 1 day to kind of get our feet underneath us and prep for the activities we had in the days ahead. While I'm going through these photos, I want to invite Lauren to share. She was one of our first timers and a parent, so I'm going to let you share, and I'll just put these on in the background.
Okay.
This is just about what it was like as a first timer.
Yeah, so I'm Lauren. This is my daughter Elise, and this was our first time going on this trip, and it was really rewarding for me, I think, to go as a parent. I've been to Latin America before, but not with my child. And so to be able to do this whole thing and see it also through her eyes and see her put herself out there in a different way than I've ever seen her do that was just a huge blessing to me to get to watch that, I think, to get to witness it. And I was really nervous going into it because you just don't really know what you're getting into and don't really know how your kid's going to react to the unfamiliarity of things. And so it was just really, it was really rewarding for me to be able to watch that and to watch her connect with the kids and to take that step to put herself out there. Yeah.
Thank you. And next we have Chloe, because this is Chloe. She's her second time going, which about half our team had gone again. So what are your impressions of going back to Honduras a second time?
I guess I was surprised at how normal it felt, like walking around the compound. Like me and Eli were taking the trash to the dumpster, and we were like, we know where the dumpster is. We know where we're going. We knew everybody around us. It just felt so, like it felt like we'd never left. It felt safe, yeah. And like last time it was so, I mean, we were scared. We didn't know what was happening, really. It's kind of like, yeah, just surreal for the first couple of days. But then like coming back, I was in the moment from the very first day. Also interacting with the girls, they remembered us. They knew our names. They were so excited to see us again, and that meant so much coming back. And also the school kids who we did like the art projects with and the sports with, they would remember some of us, not necessarily by name, but they just remembered us from last year or funny things that had happened. And yeah, it was just so good to be back and felt like we actually had an impact on those kids.
Thank you, guys. Would anybody else like to share about the travel or the first day that we were there getting situated? If at any point y'all want to share that and you didn't sign up, just throw your hand up. We'll let you talk, I promise. So we, on that setup day, we were prepping all those crafts and activities, but we also did a good deal of painting. They have added the second floor to the medical clinic there, and so it was a good help to them, and it gave us something really practical and hands-on to do right out of the gate. And so they did y'all finish it? Finished it, yeah, finished painting that whole upstairs. And only one person fell off of a ladder, and he turned out fine, so. All right, so that was my kid, so it's okay. So we're going to move on to, this is us at the little tienda down the corner, the Pupusaria. Is that right, Pupusaria? All right, hang on. We got a lot of pictures on this front end. Oh, the rain. So we were there in the rainy season, which meant that 4 out of the 7 days we had torrential rains that we were working around, and so this was just some pictures of how intense that rain was.
Think of the hardest you've ever seen it rain, and then multiply that by 3 hours.
And they played in it because that was how you work. You play soccer in the rain, so here's some of our crew soaking wet from playing in the mud. And I don't even know that we should talk about the fact that Chloe had to pick up everything that was poisonous and dangerous. All right. Let me skip ahead here. Okay, we just got to take a second to enjoy that one. This is how Chloe felt every time the plans changed, and they changed a lot. All right, and that's in the mission house. I know some of you are actually in those pictures. That one of the fun things we got to do when we first got there was look for photos of our team from last year, but also see many of your faces in those photos as well, because a huge amount of GBR has gone on trips here. All right, so the second grouping that we have is that on Thursday and Friday of that week, we did a school program with 340 students, I believe it was, over the 2 days. So we had every grade in the school. We had them for about an hour each, and we had half of that time doing outdoor football, sports, soccer games, and then half of it was inside doing a perler bead craft, which I don't know about you guys, but if I never see another perler bead in my life, I will be okay. But the kids loved them. It was a great craft and a lot of opportunity. So we're going to show you some photos from that, and we're going to hear from Corbin and Zach, who were on the sports team, and then Matthew, who was a rover, meaning he went with his group of kids to each activity that we did.
All right, you guys just look at the pictures while they're sharing. But we had some translators. That's one of our translators right there. And it was really cool. Just another opportunity to build relationship. It was really cool. Not just somebody there to help out, but somebody there to build relationship with. Corbin, how about you share with us about sports? What did we do? Who did we serve? What was your game?
So me, Zach, and Mr. Jonathan, we did the sports day, and we did it with 300 kids. Basically, our job was to set up a game, and then we would be the goalies and roll the ball out to the kids and watch like the little kindergartners and stuff just roll around like bowling pins when they got hit by the ball. And yeah.
I would just say seeing all of every single grade play soccer and communicate to us, or at least try to communicate with us, was fun to see how they play and how they learn together. It was just fun. Also, just playing goalie together and hanging out with our group and getting relationships with the people there and people in the actual Honduras mission trip group was also really fun to do.
It's a universal language. Right at the beginning, we had a problem. We had groups of kids who were skipping school, who were pretending to be first graders, who were probably fifth graders, and we're like, nah, I don't know about that. But we got that straightened out after about an hour. Matthew's going to share, because what Matthew did as a rover is he got to spend time with a class, and that class would move between different areas. So let him tell you about that.
Yeah, I don't want to be too close. Those kids are so cute. I just want to pause on this one. Whenever one of the kids would fall over, which happened a lot because that's all they did was they run and they just fall over, all of them would crowd around and ask if they're okay and pick them up. It was adorable. There was one kid specifically fell 5 or 6 times, and he's bawling his eyes out at the end, and he was ready to go to the art thing. But they're so cute. That one kid, he put his little thing on his shirt, and then the rest of them asked me to put their art on their shirt. So all of the kids at one point had their little creations on their shirt because the one kid did it. It was so fun to practice my Spanish with them because they didn't judge, because they were practicing their English with me. So at one point, whenever we would give them the art, or they would show us the art, you got to say it was bonita or bonito, and then they got candy, which is confite. It was so much fun. That's all I have.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and have Chastity, if you can share just being a middle school parent about that experience, and then you can share something too, Lillian.
Okay. I hate talking in front of people. So I had 2 kids on this trip, although one is not a kid. He's a grown man. And then I had my daughter, who is going into 7th grade. So I was just trying to think of some things or a thing that was very special to me, and at the same time kind of relate it to having a middle schooler. So as a parent, there's one of the things I think is the hardest is getting our kids to see something from a different perspective than maybe they see in their day-to-day lives. especially when you have a 12-year-old. We live in the States. We live in, relative comfort compared to many places in the world. But there was one thing that we saw. So one day we went to a school, and we were in a class where they were learning English, and they got to ask us questions and kind of practice their English on us. But afterwards, this is the classroom here. But afterwards, we heard some music, and we were able to go out to like an open air area in the middle of the school. And none of these classes have air conditioning. Most of them are just open to Honduran air, and it's hot and muggy and humid. But we went out to this area, and there was a teacher there, and he was a music teacher. And in the middle of Honduras, where they may not have as much in the way of material things that we have, there was a teacher there, and he was teaching orchestra. Basically, they had violins, they had cellos. I have a point here, but just in the middle of Honduras, where they don't have a whole lot, and he's teaching them, Mozart and Bach and this sort of things. And one thing that was really phenomenal is they told us that this particular teacher, who was very well educated, he had to have been, but he did that for absolutely no salary whatsoever. So he was. They said that every once in a while the mayor would give him a little bit of money, but as far as way of a regular salary, he did not take anything. But he's sitting in the middle of Honduras with no air condition and very little in the way of material, needs being met, and he's sitting there teaching these kids symphony-type pieces. And again, going back to, having our kids see something of perspective, it just reminded me that resilience is definitely something that is very common in that society. A lot of times as Americans, things will happen and we just, kind of crumble. But what I saw was, kids who aren't learning in an air-conditioned building, but they're sitting there learning how to play the violin and the cello, and you've got a teacher who is giving up probably what could be, probably a very comfortable Honduran salary, with that kind of knowledge and abilities, but he's not. He's given his time away. And both of my kids were able to sit there and watch this resilience and watch this type of sacrifice. And just as a parent, having your kids see those kinds of things, that kind of sacrifice for something that's very meaningful, it meant a lot to me. It was very special to me.
So being in Honduras was the best thing I've ever done, ever, even though I was scared to get on a plane. Being there with the girls and getting to see them in person, and doing the simple things like putting on a face mask or playing soccer in the pouring rain, there was never a dull moment with them, except for when a lizard got sat on and then flung halfway across the yard. But besides all of that, I went there to get closer with God and encourage other people to be closer with God as well. And I feel that worked. I feel like I'm closer with God, and I hope that I encourage other people too.
I just want to mention you're going to see some more pictures of Elias and Flor and Lizeth, our translators, because we enjoyed them so much. We extended our time with them, and they came along with us for some of the other activities that we did just because we really enjoyed them, and so you'll see them in some of the photos. So Saturday and Sunday were our worship and fellowship days. So Saturday evening is when Fuente de Vida Church has their church service in the evenings. And so I'm going to invite, who's sharing about worship? Matthew's going to share about worship here in just a second, what it was like being in a different culture's worship service. Also that morning, we got to spend some time in the beautiful natural beauty of Honduras. We got to go on a boat ride on Lake Yahoa. We got to eat a delicious lunch of freshly caught fish. I mean, some of you ate hamburgers, but most of us ate delicious caught fish. And then we got all dressed up and went to church that evening. Sunday morning, while you guys were here having your Sunday service, we were having a joint youth group with their youth group, which is called Conexion. And that was a really powerful time. Who's sharing about that one? Caleb. Caleb's going to share about the youth group time. And then the last thing on that day is that evening we did a now 2-year tradition called Noche de Chicas, Girls' Night. So we kicked all the boys off of the campus, and all of our girls and all of the ladies who work at the Hogar and all of the girls who live in the Hogar and a couple of our friends from the community all came together for a fun spa night. And I think Maggie's going to share a little bit about that.
All right, Matthew. Worship.
Their church really stuck out to me because I love our church, but we could never be as passionate as they are in our physical worship. They were, for an hour, for the first hour, all they did was dance and sing, and there was a whole like choreographed dance in front of us, and you could look over and there were people dancing and clapping. It was so cool. And then you got to see Jim and Yobani have this back and forth of their translating, and it was just such a beautiful message and a beautiful time, beautiful place. There was a lot of people there. And then we went to, Jim showed us something in the back office, and the power went out, and I thought that was an interesting part because Brandy was pretty scared. Yeah.
You guys are going to have a hard time believing this, but Brandy was stuck in a conversation with somebody, and we tried to get her attention over and over again. Say, Brandy, we're all going to this other room. Pastor Giovanni wants us in his office. And she was just talking. And so we just left, and she was still talking. And while we were back there, the power went out. She was looking for us, couldn't find this entire group, walked all the way back in the rain to our place where we're staying. It was still locked. She walked all the way back, and we were just gone. It's like rapture style. Yeah. No. But we tried to get her attention. So, can you tell us about the time we got to spend at Hyundai Yate?
So going to the lake was the first time we had kind of left the compound, except for going to the pulperia. And it was a really good experience to kind of see the natural beauty of Honduras and spend time out on the lake, on the water with the group and connect with them. It was really fun.
All right, another thing we got to do during these days was we had an awesome opportunity to spend time with their youth group, their young middle school and high school students, our 2 youth groups. It's the second time that we've now met and had a joint event. And so I'll let Caleb tell you about that.
So it was just great seeing all the similarities between our youth group and their youth group. Just in the mannerisms and just body language, even if I couldn't understand them. But we played a bunch of games with them, and they were all really excited to have us there, really inclusive. And I could just tell that they loved having us, and they loved including us in all their activities. That's it.
It's super great having a whole bunch of teenagers that don't speak the same language, all just sit and stare at each other. But then God does what God does, and through dance, music, singing, worship, mainly soccer, we find a way. And cake. Noche de las Chicas.
Okay, so I'm going to share about our girls' night. For this event, our main goal is to pamper the ladies and girls we have been interacting with. This included the girls in the Hogar, the Tias, the director Gladys, the cook Norma, our translators Lizeth and Flor, and our friend Emily, who the youth group has been sponsoring for several years now. We have foot soaks for them, hand scrubs, lotions, nail painting, face masks, and fun drinks. Even though I think none of us girls on the team would consider ourselves girly girls, we still have fun and embrace the role of pampering all the girls. And I think it's really cool because it's a real tangible way for us to take care of them and show how much we love them, and just give them a relaxing night.
This is all of our Noche de Chicas ladies here. So we were quite the big group. And all week, the girls kept asking us, when is Noche de Chicas? When is it? When is it? So that was really, really fun for us as well. So our focus for those those 2 days of the weekend were really to embrace the culture of how they worshiped, how they fellowshiped, how they did their youth group. And we definitely, I think, fulfilled our goals of learning, encouraging, and fellowshipping. And I've said this before to the group, but I want to say it now to you about this group. I was incredibly proud of them. I said this kind of briefly this morning on stage, but it's so easy to stand back and wait for people to come to you. Or maybe just stand back and watch and never put yourself out there. But every one of our kids, every one of our college students, every one of our parents, everyone just put themselves out there. You have to kind of let go of being cool. You have to let go of being understood. And you have to be willing to look a little bit silly. And when you do that, it opens up so many doors. So I was so proud of our students for doing that. Those of you who were there last year, I got to see you do it then and jump right back in this year. And for those of you who were new this year, it was just so encouraging to see the courage and the bravery that it took to make those first initial, I'm going to put my shoes on and go out there and try to play with them. It really went a long way. All right, so lots of bonding on that night. There's our face masks. And how many pictures do we have on this one? Okay, well, cultural exploration. So Monday, this was Monday, right? Monday, yeah. So Monday was our opportunity to see a little bit more of the cities of Honduras. So we got to go to Siguatepeque, which is the closest bigger town. We got to visit a place called Serve Hope that does tremendous work around Hondurans, helping Hondurans. So it was a coffee shop that helps fund a lot of other programs, including entrepreneurial programs and building houses and helping with feeding programs. So we got to see that and hear from the leader of that ministry and also drink some delicious coffee. And then we went to the semi-outdoor market in Siguatepeque to buy some souvenirs. And that was always a cultural experience because you're running all up and down these. It's kind of like a bit of a flea market, bit of a farmer's market, and also its own unique thing. So we got to really see some fun things there. Eli's going to share a little bit about interacting with folks at the market. And then that evening is when we have a goodbye party with the girls in the hogar. And that is a very emotional time, but also a beautiful time. And this year, we actually made and brought T-shirts that match ours for all of the girls. So as they were signing notes and messages on our shirts, we were able to sign on theirs as well, and that was really special. And then this is the thing that Chastity was talking about, where we actually got to go to a class of students who were learning English, and they got to interview us. We answered the same questions many times, but it was really fun. Would anybody like to talk about that? And then we'll talk about the market as well. Would anybody like to talk about the translator time?
Just want to say I'm an excellent driver. We're all back in one piece.
Okay, so little funny story. I don't remember what day it was, but we took a little excursion to this this school that one of the translators taught at, and kind of got to learn how they learned English. And on the way there, Jonathan was our driver, and the roads are a little hectic there, but there were a couple times where I don't know how I would put it, feared for my life. Um, drove the wrong way on the road a couple times, all while many Hondurans were yelling at us. What was that one time we hit a pothole and almost tipped the van? That was, we didn't do that. That didn't happen. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, all that was a great day.
They do have one-way streets in Talibé as well as here. Eli, will you share about the market?
Yeah, I just want to share like some about the market and just the people in general. This is my second year there, and so my main, idea of coming back was to learn more Spanish so I can interact with the people around. And it really helped me this year. I was able to interact with some of the shopkeepers, and we actually had a local that was talking to us about he visited the U.S. and he had some family over here, and we just talked with him about that. But it was just really cool to have another experience, understanding a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very gracious with us as we practice our Spanish, and a lot of them like to practice their English with us as well. I think that is everybody who had signed up to talk. Yeah, because we already got Lauren talking about her parent experience. Marinos, do you guys have anything to add about the time away? No. Kevin? I'm going to make you talk. What was it like this is your return trip for you?
Right.
20 years later, and
Yeah.
this time with your kids. What was that like?
So this time I've been in a period of just kind of sitting and waiting on the Lord to hear from him what's next for my life. Actually, getting to hang out with Jim again was a blessing within itself. He doesn't know what he's gotten himself into. He'll figure it out. So he did the math, which is good, because I don't do math well, and I don't history well either. Just ask my wife. So watching and waiting is what the Lord has asked me to do. Sit with him, sit with Dad, sit with him, and wait. So as a parent, it is a little interesting to say to parent through the lens of the gospel. So watching Oliver and Mackenzie be blessed, be loved, serve, living out the gospel in front of me as a dad is huge. Being in a culture and an environment that we don't know much about, just watching how God orchestrates his people and his kingdom to surround what I would consider my most valuable possessions. And for the father to say, son, don't forget, they're mine. You're their shepherd, and you will love them. And thank you for bringing them to let me bless them and bless you through this experience.
Amen. My last question is kind of for all of you. So I'm going to ask the question. I'll start on this end since you just spoke. Just a sentence or two about what this trip has meant for you personally. There's no wrong answer here. And some of you may have already shared some of this, but just a sentence or two about what it means for you to have taken that week out of your summer to go to this place, some for the first time, some for the second time, and what you brought back with you from that experience. So I'll start us off and just saying this was I think it's my fourth, maybe my fifth. I really should figure that out. It's been many times, but it was my second time bringing my kids, and I echo what Kevin said. It's a beautiful experience to see how God meets your kids in that place, and for them to fall in love with the place that means so much to me was extra special last year, and to see them pick that right back up this year was really beautiful as well. So that was a really impactful part for me, just the relationships that we got to step back into.
Thanks. I just want to say there's lots of ways to be involved in this trip, so thank you. If you're here, you're involved in this trip, thank you. If you supported us with prayer, financially, you're a part of this trip. And next year, you can be a part of this trip too, because we do plan on going again. This year we had college students that were a part of our group, and we're praying on what we're going to do next with that because it's a youth and family trip. And we got to figure out what to do with our older students who have a good, strong connection with the people in Honduras and want to continue that. So just a point of prayer as we continue to see what God has for us here in Honduras. For me, it was two things. It was being able to sit back and breathe this year. It's my second year, and actually see what was happening and going on. First year, I think I was so holding my breath the whole time. It was hard for God to pierce through that. So that happened. Love watching what happens to my son when he's down in this environment, away from screens and technology and just with people. It's really cool. And a point of like personal learning is I really see how much bigger God is than I can imagine, because the God that we find in Honduras is like the exact same God as we find here. And just running into other Christians and just the spirit of unity between my spirit and their spirit. And they're like, hey, we know each other and we've known each other a long time and we're going to know each other a long time. It's just really fascinating and amazing to me to connect with other believers in that way.
I think what I took most from this trip, it's my second time around. So the first time, a lot like Jonathan said, it was really fast-paced. Didn't have a lot of time to take it in. But I think this time I was able to slow it down more and sort of realize, the bigger picture. That's there's a lot of spiritual poverty. And the Hondurans, they're so good at just connecting with you and really making you feel like their brother, even if there's a language barrier. So I think that's what I took, is just how easy it is to really connect with people if you put the time and effort in. Yeah.
I would say kind of like the same as Caleb, like relationships down there where like you kind of have to step forward to get a relationship with someone and to talk to them. So I kind of like took that back here and to like step forward in a relationship to like talk to someone or like go out and make some friends and stuff. Also just not taking things we have here for granted, because just coming back here, I've realized that we have a lot more stuff that we take for granted, which is
I would say just like, even if we're going down there and we don't think we're making like the biggest impact or something, just seeing the kids smile and stuff, just it changes something in you. And I think just coming back here, like what Zach said, I don't want to take what I have for granted. Just honor what God has given me, and that next time I go, hopefully I can spread the love and God's word.
Yeah, this is my second year again. So I knew all these people, and I kind of went straight to the, there was no like awkward stage. And so this year I was able to look around more and kind of see more around the community. And so just seeing what they had and like what they used and them being happy about it was just a big thing for me.
Last year on the trip, I kind of made a promise to myself that HFOL will like always be a part of my life. And so that's the biggest thing that was changed for me. But that was last year. So this year, I would say the thing that changed me the most was just seeing how the youth loved us. Just being welcomed into their youth group, playing games, feeding us. It was just an amazing time with kids. Even if we didn't talk, we played games, we smiled, we took photos. Yeah, it was just amazing to see how they loved on us. It's a great example.
This was also my second time going, and I feel like this trip this year was fairly similar. Also, I felt the same way like they did, about just you were able to breathe a little easier. You were comfortable. But I think one thing that stood out to me about this trip rather than last year was building deeper relationships with the college age girls there. So Emily and Floor was one of our translators, and I think that was just really special, getting to interact with them and meet Floor. And I think those relationships will be ongoing, and we can keep in touch and stuff. So I think that's a really special part about this year.
I think for me, one of the biggest lasting impacts was the interacting with so many people that were willing to kind of share their stories and share their journeys, where most of them, I feel like most of the people that we talked to didn't like grow up in religious homes and stuff. They kind of had this winding path to get where they were, but to hear the way that God worked throughout their lives to bring them to positions where now we can look at them and be like, oh gosh, look at you. You're doing these great things. But they were very humble and vulnerable, I think, in being willing to share how they got there. And I think it just kind of made me have a broader perspective of God working in the world all the time. You know, it's really easy to just think about your own life or the people that you interact with, but like sort of a bigger picture.
It was a really good experience to begin to build relationships with the girls at the OGAR. That was really good. And the church was also really beneficial for seeing how people in another culture worship together.
Being my first time, I think building relationships and getting to know them, even though they don't speak the same language, like playing with soccer with them, that was something that you didn't need a language for it, so you could just play and play and play until everyone got tired, and it would be fun. And I didn't feel like no one got tired. It was there was just a point where we had to stop, and it was really fun.
Kind of already talked about one of the things that was important to me and kind of a memory that I'll bring back. But the other thing I was just really thankful for is just being able to be a part of the painting of the clinic upstairs. So when we were there last year, they were really just kind of setting the block for that. So it was kind of neat to get to come back and see how much progress they had made. And I'm a nurse, so, you know, healthcare and that sort of thing. You know, we look at, you know, I go to work and I look at the amount of health care we have in this country, and it's spectacular, you know, and they really just have a, you know, what we would consider as kind of a bare bones type clinic, but yet they do so much for their community, and they do it very sacrificially. And so just being able to be a part of just putting paint on a wall, you know what I mean? That was, it was very special to me.
So having gone last year, I think it was a good reminder of who God is and what His Spirit is like, and that this mission isn't over for me. I wasn't sure about the priority of all of us being able to go back and what the next trip would look like, and so it was a good reminder that we could come back and we could be just as strong in our faith, and God is just as strong as we remember. And I feel like I get a little bit I go through the motions in life, even with my faith. And so going there, it helped me to restructure and say, okay, I got to remember God's given me all this. I need to give more to Him.
Probably going to repeat a few people, but building relationships with these people down in Honduras was definitely the biggest highlight for me out of this trip. This was my first year going, so I had like no idea what I was getting into, and I was really scared of first impressions and like, oh, what if, because I didn't know anything about their culture, and I was like, what if I do something wrong? What if I totally offend somebody in this culture? But God really showed me that I didn't need to worry about that stuff. The first day we were there, we went up to the clinic to go paint, and it's like the house is right here in the clinic, and we walked over there, and these younger school kids were out playing on the playground, and they all caught sight of us, and this like huge horde of little kids comes up and just starts saying hello to us, and I just kind of stood off to the side because I was like, oh, none of these people know who I am, and they're like hugging all the people who had come the previous year, and I turned away, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, and I turned around, I'm like, these kids are coming and greeting me and giving me hugs, and I was like, well, you don't even know who I am, but they already knew that, like, we were there to become friends with them and build relationships with them, and I think that's how God showed me, like, it's okay. Like, love these people, do not be afraid. Like, they weren't afraid, so return that energy back to them, and that's kind of what I learned throughout the week.
So I'm just looking forward to my whole family going on the next trip. And God's still unpacking quite a bit. So call me up for coffee if you want to hear more.
All right, thank you guys. I know it's a big stretch for you to sit up here and do this. You did great. I want to give a couple of opportunities for you to continue connecting with Honduras Fountain of Life. So one thing to know is that our church supports this ministry monthly. Our GOT, our Global Outreach Team, is involved in that. Many of these kids sitting up here in front of you are also supporting girls in the orphanage on their own, which is a really beautiful thing, and they would never want me to toot their own horn there, but I think that's important to know that people go on these trips and they come back changed, and they want to support the ministry there. So many people in our church already support girls in the orphanage, but as of today, we have 6 new girls coming into the orphanage, and I just want to say their first names and their ages because we prayed for them this morning, but these are girls that we will hopefully get to see next year when we go, but they are acclimating to an entirely different environment than what they've been in. They've been in situations of abuse and neglect, and now they're going to be surrounded by love. So Amira, who's 3, Adriana, who's 2.5, Emily, who's 13, Katherine, who's 14, Roxana, who's 4, and Malin, who's 8. These sweet girls are going to be in the OGAR, are going to be with the girls you've seen in these photos. They're going to be welcoming them in as little sisters. And in the days ahead, HFOL is facing some pretty big financial difficulties. The government is requiring them to hire some new specialized staff that's going to result in $1,000 more a month that's needed just to keep the doors open. And the government gives a lot of regulation and 0 financial support. So that's a huge thing. On top of that, they are dealing with a sewage issue on the property that we didn't actually see firsthand because God was gracious. But this is a major issue that's affecting not just the well-being, but the safety of the girls in the OGAR, and that's going to be a huge project. I believe it was it $17,000? So these are some huge financial costs that they weren't expecting or hadn't budgeted for. So I just want to have you join us in praying for those things. Due to the abundance of generosity from you guys helping this team get there, we actually are going to have some funds left over after we've settled up all of the costs and expenses, and we're going to be able to donate towards those things and make a small impact in those needs. Genuinely thankful for your generosity that not only got us there, got us all the supplies that was requested from the folks down there, but also we're going to have some more to give. So thank you for that. And if you are interested in giving towards supporting those new girls, they're going to be looking for sponsors. Or if you'd like to donate towards that program or that project that's going to be needed very soon, like now, you can talk to Jim. Jim, would you raise your hand so everybody sees you? And then Betsy sitting right next to him, she is in charge of sponsorship. So if you'd like to talk to her about becoming a sponsor, you can do that at really any level. It doesn't have to be this huge amount, but it does take about $200, $250 a month to take care of the food, education, medical care, all the things needed to take care of one girl in the home. So obviously with 6 new girls, we're really grateful for their safety and their protection. Yeah, any amount. And so you can come, and then you'll get letters from these girls, like several times a year as teams come and go. You can send letters, you can receive letters, and then if you go on one of these teams, you can actually meet the girl in person, and that's a really special thing. So that's my official plug. I'm going to hand the mic to Jim. Pastor Jim is our American side of HFOL. He goes down with the teams. He's our pastor on the trip, and he's going to share just a little bit more. And then I really encourage you to, will both of you hang out at the table in the foyer after? There's some pictures there to see and some fun things from Honduras. If you want to talk to them about how to support this ministry further, please stop by and get some more information there. And then, Jim, I'm going to hand you the mic, and then will you pray us out of here after you share?
I was very honored to be a part of this team, and you as a church can be proud of the young people and the adults that were on this team. I think I shared with them when I was in seminary, one of my professors said the most important word in the English language outside of proper nouns is the word relationship. And I think you've heard from them today that part of GBR's vision is to build deeper relationships, not just what I call dive bomb missions, where you go in and zap, and then you go zap somewhere else, and you go zap somewhere else. For 25 years, we've been going to the same place. Mark reminded me that, because I'd forgotten, he said, "You remember me?" And I said, He said, 25 years ago, you took me on my first Honduras mission trip to the Bay Islands of Honduras. And that speaks to me of longevity, speaks to me of relationships, and everything that this group was pushed to do was towards relationships, building deeper relationships. They stepped out in faith to sponsor Emily Cerros to be able to go to university. She would have never been able to do that, and this youth group is giving funds each month to help Emily to go. They've gotten to be with Emily a couple of times now. Deeper relationships are building. And as I walked in the building a few minutes ago, I don't know if he's still here, but Brandon Williams was sitting in the back. And Brandon actually went and lived for 3 months in the mission house probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And this is a neat thing about a God sighting. Brandon, I found this out later, Brandon put a map of the world up on the wall in the mission house. And he said, "Lord, I am yours. I'm available. I'll go anywhere in the world, but I won't go to the Mideast." For 6 years, he lived in Dubai, helping to plant a church in Dubai. So it's dangerous when you tell God what you won't do. That speaks to me about relationship. He was obedient to the Spirit. The Spirit said, go. He went. He lived in Dubai. Now he lives in Germany with his wife and 3 children. But the idea of building long-term relationships. And I really appreciated the first time that Brandy went, God shook her tree and said, I've got to come back, and I've got to bring my family. And Jonathan and I have built, or are building, a deep relationship. One of the things I appreciated about Jonathan is from the very get-go, he didn't want to do just one dive bomb mission. He wanted to go deep. He wanted to build relationships. And that's what's happening through GBR's involvement, Grace Mills River, that this kind of started out of, and other churches that are involved. We have a board of 14 members. In fact, we're meeting tonight, and we've got 5 different churches represented on that board. We're IRS 501c3, and 96% of your gifts get directly to the ministry. 96%. We don't have any office. In fact, we joke, we say our office is 8 by 12, and that's inches. That's the Fletcher post office box. That's our office. So we have so much overhead. And we have no paid employees. So all the money that you give, that you pray that God supplies, goes directly to help these little girls in the orphanage, to help the medical clinic to care for the poorest of the poor who otherwise would have nothing, to help support the school of over 400 students, 2 different locations. And while we were there, I had the privilege of being a part of dedicating the 68th and 69th church that they planted. I've never heard of that anywhere. It's the closest thing I've ever seen to New Testament church. I've been taking groups overseas since 1984, and I've been in many countries, but I've never seen this really good balance between sharing the gospel and mercy. Most ministries tend to tip one way or another. We do really good things, but we really don't talk a whole lot about Jesus. Or we preach, get them saved, but we don't do any actions. Our pastor there says the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And that wasn't just the good food. Thank you, by the way. That was really good, whatever you put out there. He says you've got to put your faith into action, and then they'll want to know why you did what you did. That's what this group did. They did things of action, but it was also, the reason they did it is because of Jesus. It's not just because they're nice people. Pagans could go to Honduras and do what we do, but if it's about Jesus, that's going to last. And so I was honored to be a part of this team and the team that went before that, the week before it, and to see what God is doing. Very excited for the 6 new girls that will come tomorrow morning to that orphanage. They will come terrified because they've been taken out of abusive homes. They don't know where they're going, what they're doing. They've just been jerked up, and they will be dumped into this orphanage, but they will be loved well. And this group did a great job of building relationships, loving those little girls, loving the kids in the school, painting the clinic, just really good things. So I want to honor you guys and thank you for the way that you cared and the way that you put yourselves out there. Let's pray. Sweet Jesus, thank you. Thank you for your death, burial, and resurrection. You reminded me as I was worshiping over at Grace Mills River this morning, you're the point, Jesus. That's the point. You said, if I be lifted up, I will draw them in unto me. And I pray that GBR would be all about lifting up Jesus. Not just doing good social things like meet the need, but pointing to Jesus. Because that's the only thing that can change a heart and change hearts for eternity. God, I was honored to be a part of this team with 7th graders and old people like, I better not say who, but old people on the team too. Jesus, thank you for that privilege. Thank you, God, for what you're doing in this church. I pray specifically for Chaz and Brandy and others that you would protect them from the enemy, that the name of Jesus would be what's going on here at Grace Blue Ridge. Because that's the only thing that's going to last. You showed us how to love when you died and rose from the dead. And now we go out to love others through their stomachs and through their hearts. We love you because you showed us how to love. Amen.
All right, thank you, Jim. We're gonna call it. If you'd like to talk to any members of our team, having questions about HFOL, please grab one of us. Thank you all for coming.